Hey y'all, this is TCA Gaming, and in this video I'm going to show you guys a few things that I've bought here recently. Then we are going to go over the disco test prints that have come up. I'm going to talk about that just briefly. Well, briefly, it probably lasts several minutes still, but I am going to go into it, what my thoughts are on it, and if you're looking for this stuff, I'm going to show you guys kind of where everything's available, give you a little bit of a backstory on what I'm seeing on it and the red flags that I'm seeing, and also the signs that make me think that this stuff is real. And then at the very end, we will go over a few of the releases that just happened, and we're just going to open up a few packs. But let's first jump into some of the things that I bought. Picked up a few graded cards. Anytime I feel like I mention Yu-Gi-Oh, I got to go buy a few cards that I think are just a good price. Like, this is one of my favorite cards that I used to run in decks. I mean, it was just like a quick play that you could destroy any magic trap on the field. I mean, it was pretty simple. Pretty simple card. Very simple game back then compared to what it is now. But a couple $100 and you can get one of these. First edition PSA 10. So I picked up one of those. I've got one of these. Mirror Force. Picked this up for $700 off of a guy on IG. And then I did see the one that's on PSA Vault right now in auction for $700, but it's in auction, so that's like the starting price. I'm probably not going to bid on that one because if you flip it over, Yu-Gi-Oh is really bad with for having a lot of damage around the edge and still getting tens. So make sure you look at those cards. I do think that that's a fair price for it. I mean, that's what I'm paying, $700. But if you look at the one that's on auction right now, it's pretty rough around the edges. So just be careful, especially with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. A lot of times they're going to have some damage. Though, like the Gate Guardian that Z&G has, I'm considering buying that one. But at the very top middle, it's got like an issue. Like, it looks like a very significant white, like significant enough to where it shouldn't have gotten a 10, especially when you see them in the middle of an edge. But the other edges, they actually look pretty clean, and usually that's where you find some whitening or even like browning almost. So you got to look pretty close at Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And then check this one out. This is not one that I bought. This is one that I got returned. So this is one of the Magic and Wizards test prints. If you guys follow Geezy on Instagram, he has been very, very adamant about these being counterfeit. And then you've got the other side of it. You got Omega and CGC. They still back up or Omega's been on the complete opposite side. CGC still backs these cards up, but PSA works with eBay, and eBay now has these labeled as counterfeit. So the way this goes now is if you go to list one of these, it gets pulled down for the counterfeit policy, even though it's in a graded card holder, and their eBay's policy says that it's in the graded card holder, then they back it up. So there's a conflict of interest kind of going on right there, and I think that's because these are still trying to be like, they're in an area where there's a lot of evidence showing that they are counterfeit, and then there's not enough evidence showing that they are not counterfeit. So eBay has decided to go ahead and pull them back. Me personally, I do not know. This is a card that I sold for a consignee back in November of last year, and then the guy reached out to me. He said, "Hey, I talked with Geezy. He said you typically work with people. Would you take this as a return? Because I can't even list it. eBay pulls it back." And me as a seller, I've got full coverage for something like this, but I totally get it because I can't sit here and say, hey, I know for sure that card is real. So I told him, go ahead, send it back. We were considering doing like some store credit, but there really isn't anything that he wants. So I'm trying to figure out how to pay him now because I can't refund him. Definitely can't get back my fees, can't get back the money from the consigner, but I'm going to give him a full refund. We just got to figure out a way to pay him because it's through eBay and they're really strict about how you send information through there. So I don't want to cause any issues with that. But at the same time, eBay's telling him he can't actually sell this even though he bought it through eBay. I can't remember if this one went through an authenticator. I know there was another one where someone tried to open up a return and eBay immediately shut it down because I sold a few of these, and another person wanted to return it, but they couldn't because it went through authentication. So eBay was backing it up, saying that it was real, and as long as you keep it in that little case, that guarantee, I guess, is supposed to last. But so I don't really know how eBay's handling that side of it, but I mean, I'm going to give them a refund on this. It was like $500 some, I believe, but I can't even see the sale, so I don't know if he paid sales tax or anything like that. So I'm trying to work with them most I can, especially since it's been 5 months ago, 6 months ago, something like that. But yeah, if I can't back it up and say, hey, I know for sure that this is real, then I'm going to work with them. I don't know if anybody else has had issues with that stuff, but I am not taking those on consignment anymore, at least until there's some kind of definitive proof that they are real. But I know CGC, I talked with Matt, he said, if they do come out, they are fake. You've got, sales on this stuff, so we'll make sure that you can get your money back for those, because those are the ones that they have started issuing the refunds back for through the prototypes, which, that's a whole nother issue on the Pokemon side. where anybody who had legitimate sales through auction houses, I think that those are the refunds that have been sent out. But anyways, I do have one more purchase that I picked up, and it's this right here. Got a base set booster box. I paid $19.5 for this. A lot more than I was paying, but it's a nice minty box. It's got a good history from Fresh Magma. I love that. He's one of those guys that was consistently selling these things for years and never had any issues, as far as I know of, with any of the people that he sold to. Plus the prices, I mean, they just went up on these. I don't plan on busting it, but who knows, maybe if we do some streams later on down the road. Now I've got an extra that we can work with, and maybe we'll open them up. Now, as I promised, I told you guys we were going to talk about the prototypes, or I think it's in between first edition and unlimited, based on the layout of the timeline I have for all of the uncut sheets for base set. But I'm going to show you guys. Some of you may not even know what's going on, but let me pull up my Chrome. Okay, so if you guys remember back on October 28th, you can see delivered, we had these uncut sheets right here. It was these things. You're not going to be able to see the listing anymore. But I'm going to go to the seller, because he has changed his seller name since that time. But these were the uncut sheets that I had went through with you guys. I told you that I was trying to get them verified. However, it was a little sketchy, because the guy had to deal with me, and then it just didn't follow through. He wanted to go to a con or something, and he has actually followed up with me a few times since then. It seems pretty nice, and typically you're not going to find that with somebody who's trying to scam you, right? But yeah, so I bought some of these, and I bought one of these because it was 2 rolls, and when we got them in, we noticed there wasn't a TM right here. The font's real blurry. It's much different contrast from what I have here, where everything is pretty well focused. It's not like super crisp, but nothing really from Pokemon is, but much more so than like these right here. I might be able to zoom a little bit with this camera better, but you can kind of see where, like, it's just real blocky. But this is like a black and white, and it was a possibility that, you know, that these might have been like registration rolls, but after that, and you know, the deal just seemed to be kind of shaky. We backed out, and then there was some other stuff that had popped up along the way, and now there's even more stuff. So I'm going back here to show you that this was the user ID back then, CE0143, and if you follow that link, it takes you to Graffiti Pop PP. And you can see he's got these Disco Holos, and he was also the one that had these uncut sheets kind of pop up. And these were never mentioned in the beginning, so this was like an additional type thing, and the provenance was not strong on it, so that's kind of like one of the red flags. But you had the red logos, Jungle, and then you had the black and white kind of deal, and then you have these first edition base set uncut sheets still up here. But now there's some Disco Holos, so there are a few red flags about this, but there are a few things that make me think that they're real. Kind of like the same thing that I saw with the uncut sheets. So these are a little bit different. Someone on IG had talked to me about this stuff, and this guy right here, Collector in Training, we talked to him before. He'd actually brought to my attention that there was an E4 article about it, and this was the same guy. He linked me out. But if you follow the link to the E4 stuff, he posted it on here. He's talking about it. And so if there's ever a place you don't want to post something if you're trying to scam somebody, it's E4, because this is where Pokemon Flying Master. Yeah. Let me make sure my wife knows that I am recording right now. All right, I should be unpaused now, but PFM, Pokemon Flying Master, him and some other guy, they had worked together to figure out the prototype stuff. Scott, he's on here. There's a lot of really smart guys on E4. And so, like, if you're trying to figure out if something's real or fake, it's a good place to post. If you're a scammer, this is definitely not the place you want to post. So to me, that's a good thing that he posted here. It does say that it's his first post. So, I mean, it could be, you know, an ignorance thing, but I wouldn't think so. So I'm looking at this, and right off the bat, you can kind of tell there's a little something different going on. He actually talks about the fact that the finish on the front is slightly glossier than production cards, and the back is darker blue. So usually that would be some kind of like red flag, unless you have documentation behind it. A red flag that I see here in this picture, there are Machamps. So the disco sheet that I have and the disco sheet that all of the disco sheets that I've seen. I've probably seen 17 to 20-ish disco sheets over the years. I've never seen a Machamp on it. So that is something that's definitely different. And what I also checked, so if you see right here, you've got the Machamp, you've got the Nidoking and the Ninetales. I also checked my first edition Thin, my first edition Thick. I checked the Shadowless. I've checked Unlimited, some of the Unlimiteds anyways, because Machamp on the Unlimited, where it's actually first edition but it's shadowed, it's actually its own sheet. But the only other sheet that I have a Machamp on there, I have one that's like half Shadowless, half first edition, where the Machamps are first edition, and then the other Holos not so much. But anyways, there's no run where there's those two Machamps and then there's a Nidoking and a Ninetales above it. So just off of that first picture, I don't know where this layout come from. A lot of times the layouts are changed up, but I've never seen this layout, or at least I don't have this layout in any of the sheets that I have. Maybe there's been some uncut sheets that I missed that went through some public auction somewhere else, an auction house that had this layout. But to me, that was a red flag. The fact that Machamps are on there at all, because we haven't seen a disco sheet with that, with them being on there, or the fact that any of the sheets that I have, which go all the way back to first edition Thick and Thin, which I believe predate Disco. I think Disco was between first edition and regular Shadowless. None of those layouts have the Nidoking and Ninetales beside of each other on top of the Machamps. In fact, where the Machamps are on uncut sheets with other Holos, they don't even touch Nidoking. So to me, again, that was a red flag. And then if you look at the backside, you can tell that there's a color difference, and the way that they're cut, they definitely seem hand cut, which I believe somebody said that he went into that. He believes that they were hand cut as well. And then he talks about them being more glossy on the front side. So again, if this is a test print run, there are known examples where you have variations in the UV coating, the glossiness on the front, the color on the back. So these are things that are still possible, but they can be red flags because we just don't have any known documentation of that happening, especially with disco print Holos. So those to me are the red flags. But if you scroll down here, he ripped a card in half. Guys, you don't have to rip a card in half to see that black layer. Usually the black ink layer you're not going to find on older fakes. I don't really know how that applies much with the newer cards, but yes, you definitely want to have that blue/black ink layer, but you don't have to rip cards in half. You can actually hold them up side by side. I think somebody shows that. Yeah, you can see it right here, where you can see that layer in between the cards without having to rip it in half. So if you have an expensive card and you're concerned about it, another way is a lot of times when you hold this type of card up to the light, to a strong light, it's going to be translucent. So you're going to be able to see the swirl kind of coming through. Don't always hold that to be fully like a way to determine something is fake, because a lot of Japanese cards have a different type of stock and you can see some of the swirl through a strong light, especially like a light from your camera. Let me see if I can do it with something like this. Like this is a fake, or this is a real card. Let me pull off. There we go. So like I've got my, you can't really see anything through there, but like a fake card, you're going to be able to see the swirl. It's going to look like a swirl almost coming through the back. Same thing with the back Japanese cards, but it's going to be, sometimes the Japanese cards you can see through. Yeah, see how you can see the light a little bit more through Japanese. You can read Pokemon there. And this is a new back. Old back, you can actually see it even more so. But still, it's pretty strong. You can almost make out the Pokeball when you pull it away a little bit. But fake cards, usually it's really obvious on something like that. And that's just another test that you can do. It's still never going to be like a tell-all. That used to be one of the ways that you could tell apart like if you aren't familiar with the color schemes or the slight difference in the glossiness for the stock. One way you could tell the difference between the best song Shadowless Pikachu, which is an English card, but it was released with the Japanese CD where you had the Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, Mewtwo, Bubble Mew, all that stuff, versus the English Pikachu that come out of a booster pack and that was Shadowless. The Japanese versions were usually really, really good shape. But you used to be able to tell the difference, and then PSA actually stopped designating those separately, and then they went back to designating them. Well, maybe they don't anymore. I know CGC does. I can't remember. I think PSA does designate now, but they may not, because there's no like print differences. Like it doesn't have anything different in that way. Whereas like with the Jigglypuff and the Pikachu, they have the gray star that are printed, and you have to peel them off. Like the gray star is completely, I mean, it's completely different from the English version of them. But with the Pikachu, it's the Shadows Pikachu. It is a little bit tougher to tell. Also, come down here. This is another nice little test. You know, looking at the actual print dots and seeing if they are similar. So he posted pictures here. Now it doesn't show the full cards. You can kind of see some of the Disco Print Holo up there in this missing text, but you can't really tell for sure that, you know, this is comparing it to a Hitmonchan that that isn't a Disco. So I mean, but there are known, like I'm not an expert in examining these dots and figuring them all out, but he's saying right here, Hitmonchan looks pretty much identical. I think this is a good step, you know, doing this kind of thing, posting it on E4, trying to, you know, show the information that is out there. I think these are all good things to try to get something authenticated, verified, especially when you're dealing with cards that really haven't been seen before. These are Disco prints. They're already very, very rare. But now you're talking about ones that have a different surface. They're glossy. The provenance doesn't seem to be there, as in like a good history all the way back to exactly where they come from. Don't even know where they were cut. You've got the backside is a little bit darker, and then it's also coming from a source where we've seen other items, which I don't mean this in a derogatory way towards the seller, but they are questionable. We don't know for sure. Like, you know, I'm going through these, you know, I had issues with these before, and it was a little sketchy the way the deal went down. But the fact that he's continued to, he's even reached out to me a few times. I think he had said something about, because I made a video going over another uncut roll where it was actually the black triangle first edition uncut roll, but the triangles weren't there. So it was unlimited base with the first edition stamp, and it was being auctioned somewhere else. I mentioned it, thought it was kind of coincidental that all of this was happening at the same time or around the same time. And he said, you know, those weren't from me. And so if that was true, you know, at least he reached out to me. He saw the video. And if he's watching this video here, hope he doesn't take to offense to me saying these are red flags, but they are. And so the more information you can bring up, the more you can show that, you know, all the information that is needed for the scans, trying to verify these cards. Provenance is a huge thing, figuring out where they come from all the way back to the source and having that person say, hey, this is exactly what it is. That's all good stuff. Like even most of the disco sheets that are out there now, there's really not a whole lot of provenance for them. The disco sheets that I have, I've gotten one, they come from a Facebook auction. I got another one off of an eBay auction. But everything on them, when I see them in person, when I look at the card stock, look at the layout of the cards themselves, even the layout of the cards on the sheet compared to other known real sheets, it all matches up. Sign-offs, that matches up. With this right here, if you can post information on any sign-offs for like edges that you have still left from any parts of the cards, like that's stuff that could potentially bring credit to it. But if you mess something up and you're trying to print these things, I'm not saying you are, but if whoever's selling you these things, if they're printing them, they have a high quality printer somewhere. I don't like that's a very, very expensive printer. That's basically what I was told when I obtained my first disco uncut sheet. It was like, it's going to take $1 million plus printer to print something like this out. But that was years ago. I don't know how that is now. So these are all questions you kind of got to keep in your head. But as for me, I'm staying away from these products for now because I've already been burnt on the prototypes, and we're talking about stuff that was coming directly from one of the original creators of Pokemon. You know, how much more provenance can you have than that? There's even videos out there of him talking about them, and still, you know, that was not good enough. Like, these cards were being printed, they're fake, and so this is the place that figured that out. So I think it's great that you posted it on E4, and hopefully it can be determined one way or the other. Hey, for sure, these are at least older than, you know, what we had. Older than 2024. I've heard people saying you can change the metadata. Can you even have metadata on cards like that? Like, maybe somebody can examine that kind of stuff. I still don't know exactly how the whole metadata thing works, but these are cards, right? So you should have that, or maybe you'll have that. You had it on, you know, those beta prints and stuff. So That'd be cool if somebody could pull that information out. But anyways, that's all I'm going to do on that. I told you guys it was going to be brief. Of course, it didn't end up being brief. But now I'm going to just briefly go through a few of the most recent releases. We had this little Eevee collection box that had a pouch in it. Really, all you get is this pouch, which it is nice. I think of like the marble holders from back in when I was a kid, and you used to be able to pull those things too, and you'd have a sack of marbles. I actually played marbles. I don't know if anybody else here did. I think you get 5 packs. I put 6 in here in case it was 6 because I can't remember. I had them busted down, but we'll open up those packs after this. And then also you have the Lily's Clefairy Tournament collection box, whatever it is. It's very similar to the other, like Marnie, Juniper, those kind of collection boxes. You get a deck box with Lily right there. You can see the Clefairy. You get some sleeves, a coin, a sticker, dice, counters. Very similar to like an Elite Trainer, but the deck box is smaller and kind of cooler. But then you get all these smashed packs inside of the deck box. Anytime I get these, that's really the bad thing about them. The packs, they're like bent at the top, and so I can either go through and individually kind of push the cards up and try to flatten the packs back out and then put them in the box where I sell packs out to people, or I can just set them aside and I'll just wait for a streamer. And usually these are packs that I give to streamers because they're going to be opening them up, versus some people like to keep, when they buy packs, they like to just keep them for their own personal collection or display, and they don't like packs like this. Some people don't care, but some people do. So I usually don't sell these through eBay, even though there's really nothing wrong with them. But I'm going to go through, we're going to open up these packs, and then we'll finish with the prismatic. Who knows, maybe we'll hit something kind of cool. But yeah, those are those 2 releases. You do get a Lily's Clefairy. I posted that on my Instagram. It's like a ghost version of Lily. And then the Clefairy is kind of like full color. But it's a promo. Then you get like 3 Lily's Pearls or something with it. The swirls kind of look cool, but I don't think it's anything super special. All right, cool. We got an Iris's Fighting Spirit. A nice full art there. Twilight Masquerade. Ooh, Poltergeist. I had someone recently buy some 151 packs, and they said they got 0 hits out of 36 packs, which I've never had that happen. So I opened up packs from that lot. I opened up about 10 packs, and I got 3 hits myself. I was like, you know what, let me just take packs from another box. I opened some up, and I got 4 or 5 hits in 12 packs. I'm like, okay, let me just send them 36 from here. And then they said in the second 36, they ended up only pulling 3 hits. None in the first 27 packs or 26 packs, something like that. So that was interesting. I never know if I can believe that kind of stuff, but how do you accuse somebody of lying about that kind of thing? Because it really could have been just bad luck, but maybe, Dan, if you're still listening somehow on this video, you can calculate for me, ooh, a Master Ball right off the bat. What are the odds, for 151? Like no hits out of the first 36 packs, and then no hits for the next 26 packs after that. Because that's pretty much what happened, or they claimed happened. They seem pretty communicative about it, because I sent them the second 36 packs. I sent them those for free. I don't typically do that kind of thing, but he said it was for his son, 6-year-old son, on Easter, and I was like, this is just going to be, ooh, look at that. We got an SAR, even though it's a mask right off the bat. I have one of these packs, and there's an Atticus too. So I know how that feels. You get a bunch of packs and get nothing out of them, especially when you spend, because I charged a decent premium on my 151 packs. I think I'm like $500 for 36 packs on eBay. I'm not really into selling my 151 packs because I'm running lower and lower. I'd rather just keep them, but I'll sell some of them. And if somebody wants to pay a little higher, then I'll let them go. Man, that almost seems like an alpha cut. See how it's like extra around the side? But not too bad for those packs. Got a Mela, Eevee GX, got an SAR, Atticus, a Master Ball Duraludon, and then that was the packs I got. Or that's what I got out of the tournament deck. But anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I do have another video that I'm going to try to do soon where I'm talking about Destined Rivals and allocations. Allocations seem to be looking pretty good for that set. And then reprints or offering for Prismatic Evolution ETBs. But let me know your thoughts if you have any information on the disco prints, if there's other information out there that I just completely missed. And if you do buy in on those, just be careful. Like I said, I gave you some of the red flags. I gave you some of the pros that I think are smart moves by the person, and why it makes me think that they're not scamming. I think these cards could go either way. And right now, again, my gut says they look real, but it's just so coincidental that all of these things are coming out, especially from the same source, without some kind of provenance backing them. It just it doesn't seem to add up without that provenance. Usually, you hear the stories. People are like, "Oh, I found them in my basement," or in some random storage locker. Usually, these kind of high-end items like this, I mean, there's got to be something behind it to where all of them are coming from the same place. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense that he'd be picking up these things from different sources. And there may be information out there on all of that, because I didn't go through that entire thread, kind of looked at the pictures. But E4 is definitely a good place to root out all that information, so I'm hoping that it does come out. But anyways, you guys, I hope you had a great weekend, and maybe we'll talk later on this week about Destined Rivals.